can't argue with it. If you want to know who's going to win a game of Hearthstone right now, bet on the Frenchman is not the worst rule, it seems like. But after that electric pace opener, even though it went the distance in game score, it was two players playing very, very quickly on both sides. We do now have Jarla coming up in our next series, who I think is likely to grind things to a halt a little bit because he is a very, very slow and considered player, and he is playing some very intricate decks alongside that, which I'm sure he will be thinking through many, many, many decisions per turn during his time allotted.
So what you tell me, Sot, in a very roundabout way, is get comfortable. This one's going to take a while.
I think
great.
If this series goes 3-0, it will still be longer than that series.
Oh, really? Someone time it. I'm not going to, but someone should, just to see if Sol's right or wrong. Hopefully wrong. But anyway, I'm not sure if we are getting into this or if we're going to go to a break before we start. Let me just have a quick check. It looks like we are going to be getting straight into the match for you guys and just checking out the deck lists and lineups of the next two players, which is fine by me. Bring on more Hearthstone. We don't need breaks here. So let's check out SilverName's lineup and let's see what is cooking. I did not have the joy to cast SilverName last season as I was not doing EU, but I did watch a good chunk of his games, and he is definitely quite emotive on the old camera himself, isn't he, Sol?
He is, and I don't know if joy is necessarily the word. I've thrown some shade at SilverName throughout last year's GM, but I think also given him a lot of credit in various points. I think myself and Admirable realized one day that basically everything we were saying about SilverName basically boiled down to, wow, this guy is playing these bad decks incredibly well.
Right.
That's basically the story of SilverName's first year in GM, because yeah, he seems to be an incredibly good player, and I've cast him in tournaments long before GM, when he was still playing regularly competitively and not so much focused on streaming, where he got deep in these tournaments and impressed me back then as well. So I know he's an incredibly good player. He just has this habit of bringing some really, really weird random decks to tournaments.
And one of those is going to be Spell Mage. His Demon Hunter is banned out. As you can see, it's not on that list, but I will just have a small note, a inclusion I do like. He's playing Tempo Demon Hunter, but running one Consume Magic, which I think is a very good choice right now, because I feel like there's been a lot of matchups where it's like, if they could just silence this one minion, and maybe a taunt or whatever, and get through it a bit easier, then it would make it a little bit easier for the Demon Hunter. But anyway, he's not going to be playing at this series, but let's check out Jarla's lineup, his opponent, and see how it's going to fare against the Spell Druid and the Spell Mage. But he does have Spell Druid. Galakron Warlocks are very similar, but the Bomb version of the Warrior archetype knocking around at the moment. What do you make of Bomb Warrior right now, Sottle?
I actually probably have the most respect for Bomb Warrior right now than I have ever had in the history of Hearthstone. Throughout most of the time where Bomb Warrior has been a playable deck, I haven't really felt like it was the right choice. Felt like it was overrated in a lot of matchups. Now I think it essentially has the core of the Risky Skipper, Battle Rage, Armor Smith, all that kind of business that No Hands Warrior does. And I'm not entirely sure what the best solution is to the last sort of 5 to 10 cards in the deck. Maybe it is bombs. That's for sure the plan that Jarla has gone with here. But alongside that, he also has an OTK Demon Hunter, which has been banned. He has Galakron Warlock, 3D version of it. And then he has the Spell Druid as well, again, with a decent amount of late game thrown into it as well. So I'm expecting to see these matchups get drawn out a little bit, as I was saying earlier.
Yeah, and we are going to be going into Druid versus Warrior, Jarla's Warrior and SilverName's Druid for game number 1. And one thing I will just note as an added nod for Bomb Warrior, if people are wondering, why play bombs, or also some Bomb Warriors aren't running Clockwork Goblins, but there's a lot of decks that are effectively drawing their deck every game right now. Druid being one of them. We talk a lot about Galakron Warlock draws a lot of cards. The other warriors that use Battle Rage to try and draw their whole deck, if you shuffle a ton of bombs in someone's deck and they draw their deck, they often die. So it's definitely not just a random choice out of nowhere. The bombs, I think, if in any meta, are the most relevant right now. Based on what we've seen, it used to be Bomb Warrior was something that control archetypes did to just win slow. Now it's something these players are doing to just accelerate games where their opponents are drawing a million cards, even to the extent, as you can see right now on Jarla's list, there's the Wrench Calibers, there is Clockwork Goblins, which might be a bit overkill, but 2 Horde Pillagers, which means that is 2 more Wrench Calibers, effectively, if they're drawn, which is an absurd amount of bombs. I think the other day I played against a Bomb Warrior, I had 11 bombs in my deck. Guess what? I lost that game of Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Guess what? I lost that game of Hearthstone.
Yeah. And we've seen various builds of this deck that just play Wrench Caliber Horde Pillager and don't play any other versions of Bomb Shuffling cards, which it's outrageous when you start to think about how many bombs you have built up in your deck. And like you're saying, you're sat there, you've got 6, 7, 8, however many bombs in your deck. And you're like, wait, my opponent has done this purely with Wrench Caliber this game. Like, that's absurd.
I'll go to the extent that I actually prefer the no Clockwork Goblin lists, because I think you could use some other tools that maybe help some other matchups. Because if you play in 2 Wrench Calibers and 2 Horde Pillagers, well, that is enough bombs to win most games of Hearthstone. And Clockwork Goblin, it's only 1 bomb, right? There's no Elic anymore, so you can't Clockwork Goblin Elic and things like that. So it's 1 card for 1 bomb, and I don't think the deck actually needs it. I think I'd like to see something else in there. I don't know what that something else is right now. I'm not exactly, pro warrior deck builder myself anyway, but I feel like that might be a little bit OTT with the double Horde Pillager.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with you. I think we saw some lists in Americas last night when TJ and Frodan took over, which were slimmed down to just that Wrench Caliber package. And looking at those lists, I know they caught my eye a little bit more. I was like, yeah, you know what? Just Wrench Caliber? that kind of makes sense to me with the way that the deck is built right now.
Well, let's get into it. Bladestorm in there for Jarla's opening hand could be pretty good against the token/spell druid from SilverName, but as you mentioned, SilverName never want to just do the standard. He is running, I'll just highlight some of the different cards I'll say are non-standard. 1 copy of Bees in the list, the single Savage Roar, which is fairly common, single Soul of the Forest, but he's running double Force of Nature, double Anubisath Defender, double Aeroponics as well, and then still has the 1 Gift of the Wild, 1 Forest Aids, and obviously the Kael'thas Overflow combo for later on.
Yeah, if I had to, and I'm, not aiming this as a slight in any way, but I would describe that as an old version of the deck. That seems very much like what people were playing around with on sort of day 1, day 2 of the metagame. So I don't know whether it is that SilverName isn't as up to date as he could be, or more likely, I'm sure he knows about the list that everyone else is choosing to run, but he just thinks this one is superior. So interesting decision on his part.
Also as well, he might have just practiced this list more and gone, maybe a few days ago, it's, you should play this is right, but, I've not got time and I've practiced this list, so let's play something you're comfortable with instead of something that just someone has told you is good, because there is a big difference between those two things. I know for me, personally, I am definitely way better at something, even if it's a worse list, that I'm comfortable with, than I am if you just handed me a list and said it's good. I'd probably still do bad with it.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure if I played every deck you told me was good, I would do very, very badly indeed. It's
because you need to be a special level of intellect to pilot my sort of tier of deck, Sartle. You can decide whether that is high or low.
So yeah, special is definitely the word we can agree on, right? We can move on.
Okay, well, looking at these cards, although we did lose Militia Commander from the rotation, we did not lose Restless Mummy, which is still, although maybe not quite shining as brightly as it did in the previous seasons, still an extremely good card.
Yeah, no qualms about that whatsoever. Still way too good of a card to not be including if you are really concerned about sort of mid-range and late-game removal.
One thing I want to point out, and I really want to try and keep an eye on this game, because it's something we saw in Asia Pacific yesterday. Staz played around a Blade Flurry in a very nice manner that brought out a lot of order lulls from the chat, and they were wrong. Shock horror. He actually left a cheap 1/1 on the board on purpose, so it instantly dies to Blade Flurry.
And around Blades.
Oh, sorry, Blade Flurry. Yeah, we're
just
not playing
in case everyone else was confused as I was up until that point. I just
Bladestorm, the card in the far left of Jarla's hand. I apologize. And it was super high level. It was just very good, because I feel like these cards are the ones that can trip you up, and that's something SilverName has to consider, because a lot of the time as Spell Druid, your board outside of Mount Sellers, which he does not run, looks very samey, right? You make a ton of 2/2s, and if you buff them, they're all 3/3s. So they will all die to the Bladestorm.
For sure.
So I'm interested to see if he plays around it.
Definitely something to look out for, just, you know, having a 1 health minion just sat on your board for the purpose of being a 1 health minion, essentially, to play around Bladestorm. Here comes the boy, the absolute lad himself, French Caliber. Makes this whole deck tick.
And what do you think? Do you think SilverName is just almost going to ignore the bombs and not overthink it and just say, I'm just going to play this game anyway?
I think you have to, yeah.
I don't think he can afford to go, I'm not going to draw cards this game. It's like, it's what the deck does. You know,
exactly.
So it's a bit of a problem, right?
It kind of comes back to the point that you were talking about earlier, where it's one of the reasons why Bomb Warrior is debatably such a good pick right now. So many decks in the metagame draw their deck and have to draw their deck because they play so many little individual combo pieces that have to come together. For decks like that, well, I'm just going to play with these few cards that I have in my hand isn't necessarily an option, because they don't do anything without the other combo pieces that they need to draw.
Yeah, and one of the side benefits that SilverName does have, and Druid in general, is one of the cards that draws cards also heals you to a certain extent, the overflow, right? So at least it negates one bomb, right? By drawing it, it can negate one. So it's something to push back the tide of bombs that's going to come from Jarla if it gets to the kind of critical mass in his deck.
Right.
And now we talked a little bit yesterday about KT really just coming down almost on 6, or as it's drawn. But here, SilverName is not really rocking it. And just talking about deck building again, SilverName is not running Moonfires. So that is 2 less very now to doesn't have
room for his...
and 2 crystal powers.
Yeah, exactly. Those are making room for his, you know, Anubis Defenders and Force of Natures and all those other cards that you were talking about at the beginning. So yeah, he has a much hand starting to become unlocked now for SilverName as Overgrowth is available, and of course all of the if you have 7 mana cards are now at his disposal for 0.
Yeah, I do remember it's called Bog Beam and not Bog Blast, which, you know...
Dude, I was really hoping I could bait you into calling it Bog Blast for the whole stream. It would have amused me so much.
Would have amused me as well, Sol, so I wouldn't have been that upset.
Okay.
See, and that... You know, now SilverName's cooking on gas, right? Like, look at that. And now he can almost do whatever. It's shame they had to use up KT, but as we said earlier, better than nothing.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be way more standard of a strategy, I think, where SilverName's going to go, I am going to keep making boards, and if you do not clear them all, you're going to die. Jarla as well, I'll be honest. I did not go super in depth on Jarla's Bomb Warrior. But the one Plague and double Brawl in his list, so it's definitely more of a defensive Bomb Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
So he does have clear potential. The Kargath Blade Fist is an awesome card as well, one of the primes from the new set. So he does have some game. And also, actually, the Deathwing Mad Aspect, I think, is really starting to hit its stride as a card right now. Being able to effectively just be another board play in these warrior decks that can end games with the bombs. So the other focus is just don't die then and let the bombs do their work.
Yeah, and it is a very Jarla way of building this deck, right? Where it's essentially control warrior with the ultimate win condition of just eventually you will blow up. If I just wait long enough, then eventually you will blow up to all of these deck bombs I put in your deck.
Right. And now, honestly, I think SilverName's options are fairly limited to the extent of, well, you just need to start making boards to hope you can grind them out, because outside of a Soul of the Forest, I don't, or at least I'll ask you, what do you think SilverName can do outside of just waves of boards to make these waves stick, or to give him a chance to actually have a turn where he can end the game here? Because for me, his hand looks like a almost paint by numbers of make 2/2s, he gets them cleared, makes some more, he gets them cleared, hope he doesn't have them in hand.
No, that's about it. You've pretty much summed it up. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you were about to say it. The Soul of the Forest is the big kicker. That's like his one real trump card. So he wants to make sure that he has the falls for Glowfly Swarm, so he can Glowfly Swarm Soul of the Forest on a full 7 minions, because that is his huge payoff, especially now he's seen Bladestorm go down. So, with that in mind, I think that's all he's doing is just counting his resources, making sure he still has that available to him on the following turn, and just rationing out to make sure that his eventual Soul of the Forest turn is as powerful as possible.
Right, and a good thing to know as well, some of these cards are going to get stuck in SilverName's hand because there is Aeroponics in his hand, which he probably does not want to play. There is Fungal Fortunes, which he does not want to play, because as soon as bombs shuffled in, you don't want to be drawing like 100 cards a turn because you'll die. So now even hand space is a bit of a consideration for him.
Gets a 4-mana Blood Boil Brute here. Oh, sorry, 3 even. I forgot the Restless Mummy will be coming back injured as well off the Reborn.
Just an MVP every day of the week, Eddie. Restless Mummy.
Yep. And then the mother of all Battle Rages for 5 cards from Jarla.
Oh, and there we go. And honestly, what has confused me looking at other Bomb Warrior lists, there are some that aren't running Horde Pillager. And my question is, sometimes, why aren't you running 2, not why are you running 1? Sure. So, and you get to just see the plan basically in the hand now. Jarla's not going to die that soon by the judge of things. And there's just inevitability, right, in this game with these bombs and the double Horde Pillager. And there's nothing SilverName can do about it. It doesn't even run any weapon removal or even a Zephyrus to pull something out the bag in that way.
Nope, he is pretty linear in the way he can attack this, as we were talking about on the previous turn. He just has to try and load up as big a board as he possibly can. Those Bog Beams that were already used by SilverName could have been of great use here, because that's what really allows him to do 2 things at once, essentially, like fully tempo swing, clear the board, and generate the big tree ants himself. But with those down, he kind of has to choose of just, well, do I want to spend a turn answering some of this board state, or am I just going to load out as hard as possible?
Yeah, it's going to be a real tough one. He is going to use the Aeroponics. I believe he's not really got too many bombs in his deck right now, as he just got the 2, I think, from the first Wrench Caliber.
Just the natural Wrench Caliber,
yeah.
I think, yeah.
So it's as safe as it's ever going to be. And now the Anubisas, which I mentioned earlier, to be fair, how does he get minions that have some higher health total? Well, the 2 Anubisas have 5 health. Yep. Way harder to deal with than 2/2s.
For sure. Well, Deathwing's exciting, but not exactly optimal here. Although if the 6/6 goes into the 3/5, then there's what, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 attack total left over. So it should actually fall clear from that point. Well, I guess RNG is to when it attacks the other 3/5s.
Right.
Decide, yeah.
Yeah, he's actually just 1 mana off doing a nice sort of little risky skipper, horde pillager, and then just Plague of Wrath. That's a very nice turn, actually, isn't it? Just looking at how the deck can work, it's a very solid 10 mana turn that you clear the board and equip a Wrench Caliber, you know,
right,
to be able to swing it. So, not that you can do it now, but that is actually, I didn't really piece that one together, but that looks pretty nice in the future for Jarla. So it does look like a Deathwing or a Brawl, doesn't it? Maybe Brawl's just the safest option here.
Yeah, the Deathwing's just too awkward because you still have your own 6/3 surviving as well. That's messing up the attacks on top of all of that.
Oh, so he's playing the second Horde Pillager and just taking it on the chin a little bit?
Looks like it, yeah. This is a cute play, actually. I didn't look at this, to be perfectly honest. This makes sense. It's probably, he's just saying here, really, he doesn't need, what, like 8 bombs from all of his Wrench Caliber charges to go into the deck. He just needs to be able to outlast these boards that are coming down from SilverName. So losing 1 bomb there for the sake of having the most efficient possible clear, it makes sense to me. And again, it's a great spot from Jarla, and it's one of the reasons why he takes 60 seconds on every Hearthstone turn that he makes, instead of babbling on like idiots like we do, Raven. He finds the good plays.
That's what he's there for, and that's what we're here for, mate. That's fine by me. I will say I'm definitely behind this, because also the only heal that SilverName has is actually going to end up dealing him more damage through fatigue very soon. So
Overflow is absolutely not healing at this point.
Exactly. Sure. So he's even past the point of Overflow negating something. Do you know what I mean? So the bombs do more than enough as long as he can swing them, but his health total is great. And here's the challenge now, right? This is the turn that we alluded to, what, 3-4 turns ago, where SilverName makes the board with Glowflies, makes the Soul of the Forest. He's already pulled out what seemingly is a reasonable chunk of removal requirements from Jarla, and now does this stick enough to play Gift of the Wild, Power of the Wild, anything, Breath of the Wild, like whatever, you name it.
He innovated the hero power instead of innovating the Power of the Wild, which is kind of interesting to me. Obviously, hero power minion has various implications as to how many Glowflies you can pop open, whereas playing Power of the Wild is planning for risky skipper, essentially. But I guess with the threat of Brawl on the first wave anyway, then it doesn't really matter how much health they have. Maybe hero power was the stronger of the two options.
Definitely feels like in this one he is just one mistake away from just losing the game and not having enough at this point. So it's very, very tricky as to how and when he goes here. Deathwing, he's going to come down for Jarla. Let's see what happens, because this is not going to clear the board.
It's just going to leave 1, 2, 2 up.
3.
Yeah, obviously the death rattles happened.
Oh, right.
It was like one of the 2/2s that was on the board to begin with.
I'm not trying to make you look stupid here, but there's definitely going to be more than 1, 2, 2 left. But yes, you're right. Yeah, outside of the Treants that gets summoned, of course. There's another bomb go off though. Put SilverName down to 21.
5, idiot.
But now, SilverName, this is the opening he's been playing for, right? So this is where he has to make it work.
Yep, agreed.
And does he just go? Does he Gift of the Wild, Power of the Wild, whack?
So, how much damage would he push if he does that? He has 8 right now. That'd be 8 more for 16, 4 more for 20. So we would put him down to 10. The problem is, I think you can get a read based on Jarla's play of what that play was about, because it wasn't very good in a vacuum, right? Like,
correct.
Spend your whole turn, kill a card, didn't really do anything. Your board state's still huge. So I think you can assume from that what he was doing was just trying to pop open all the death rattles for Brawl, for example, which is a card you can see he has in hand. So I think if you go all in and don't put him on direct lethal threat, and then he just brawls away your board, do you win from that position?
Well, he is running Force of Natures, remember, he is running more boards in a box, so maybe he just can. Maybe he makes the brawl happen and go, right, again, double Force of Nature is in the list, so I think if anyone can do this, SilverName can.
And I think after that debate, I think the way SilverName's done this is perfect. He prioritized drawing cards, and then when he had the extra threats in his hand, he now has Glowfly and Force of Nature, etc. built up. Then he innovated out of the Gift of the Wild and just pushed the damage on top of that. So I think this was a really nice way to play the turn.
Yeah, and Jarla now does have a clear. He can play Risky Skipper, Armor Smith, and Plague. Doesn't gain too much armor, but does clear the board, which is, you've got to say, is priority number one. Do you think he could go for a brawl if he wants to be omega greedy?
No, I don't. I think he just dies, right?
I mean, I would snap the Plague me because I'd be too scared. But I was just wondering if there's any way he can be greedy. But also, I don't think Jarla can expect to draw many more minions. So this Armor Smith isn't exactly going to be gaining him 100 armor anyway, right?
Yep, fair point. But yeah, I think if you brawl there and a 4/4 lives, which is what happens 3 out of the 4 times, then there's a 4/4 and a 2/2 on the board, and you're at 13.
Yeah.
I guess
then
maybe you get to armor up again to 15 anyway. Yeah, you feel pretty dead in that scenario a lot of times. We can see that SilverName doesn't have a Savage Roar in his hands, but you know, that plus Power of the Wild plus whatever else, you know, you're getting there pretty close.
Funnily enough, though, SilverName's pretty close to the bottom of his deck, and there are some bombs in there. So there's one. He's only on 13 health.
Take 5,
There's
idiot.
2. Oh no, okay, look like a bomb. Never mind.
That's a Roar.
Oh, such a close game. And most importantly, so hang on, SilverName, you can heal with Crystal Power, right? And that's going to be a big deal because Jarla, if SilverName did nothing to his health this turn, Jarla can put him to 5 with the Wrench Caliber.
Sure.
So he has to heal, armor up, something, whatever. And he's not going to use Crystal Power for anything else. So I think that is a given this turn.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, Crystal Power cannot go face. Only certain classes get the privilege of their removal spells also being able to hit face. I'm looking at you, Warlock.
What about... Does he not want to Glowfly first before he does... Is Force of Nature plus Power of the Wild the last-ditch attempt? Because Glowfly only gets worse, right? Or is he going to stay at 7? Maybe he stays at 7, I didn't count.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, I think he should have Glowfly then. And then had the backup of Force of Nature, Power of the Wild next turn.
Sure.
But most importantly, he does heal and put himself at a more reasonable life total. And there is the Chainsaw Boy, Kargath Prime.
Which means Jarla can pull himself a long way out of range now if he wants to. Kargath Prime, if you're not familiar with it, every time it attacks and kills a minion, you gain 10 armor and it has Rush. So,
so it's going to happen.
Yes.
Ooh, has anyone done Sweeping Strikes confirmations on that? Is that 30 armor?
On Kargath? No idea. Good question.
Because it attacks and kills a minion. Well, it does that.
My answer,
it attacks
based on
once
my
but kills 3
of,
minions.
Yeah, exactly. Of how the card is written, it should gain 30 armor.
I wonder if it didn't because it doesn't say overkill.
Huh? What does overkill have to do with anything?
Because you attack once and kill a minion, right? So you gain 10 armor. Whereas if it was, say, overkill, you'll have done that 3 times. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, so overkill.
Someone in half an hour, when everyone's caught up with this conversation, someone tweet me and tell me, and then we'll know.
Well, overkill would happen 3 times because you've overkilled 3 minions, right? Sure. But this Kargath attacked and did kill our minion. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, he killed 3, but he did an attack and killed a minion. Okay. So he gained the armor. Do you understand my point?
I now understand what you're saying, but still think you're wrong.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I'm just trying to go through the different variations of what it could be. But anyway, there's the armor regardless. So SilverName is definitely on the back foot here in terms of being able to push his damage, because this Kargath's just going to do the same again next turn if he doesn't deal with it. So SilverName has to either just try and outrace him, but does he do that?
He's just racing 10 armor.
Yeah,
great.
he's trying.
Yep.
Bless him. He does have Savage Roar, so maybe.
Yep. I mean, if there's a card in the game that will race 10 armor, Savage Roar is certainly it.
But now attack. Wait. Shouldn't. Oh, okay, sure.
He wants to put him to 5,
yes,
Raven. That feels more important.
Yes, but then 10 armor brawl when he probably doesn't have any clear left felt the same, but it's the same outcome anyway. Whatever. Two different sides of the same coin. Jarla takes game number 1, and yet again, I said to you, I think before we started the show, but I am excited now. I feel like once we got past the first week or so of the expansion, the rotation, when everyone's like, what do these cards even do? I feel like now we're in the really crazy bit of decks being refined, created, really just drilled down. And that deck alone, it's not no hands. It's a different style of bombs that we've seen before as well. It's like the control bomb. That looks like a pretty good deck to me, Sol. So now I'm like, is that the warrior you play? Maybe we've got too many archetypes knocking about now. Is there just too much? It's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, I very quickly get past the what do these cards actually do phase. I remain in the what are these cards actually called phase for quite a long time.
And forever will be.
I'm still very much in that phase right now. But yeah, I think, honestly, I really, really like games or anything, any competitive endeavor, be it a game, a sport, whatever else, where you can allow player personality to come through in the way that you play or execute your craft. And I think it's really, really interesting that we're suddenly seeing Jarla come along, who I was setting up as a very slow, grindy, methodical, thought-out, drawn-out kind of player. And his idea of how this warrior deck works is that it's a slow, methodical, drawn-out,
he'll make it slow.
That's really cool to me. So I'm hoping that we see a lot more of that stuff as the season progresses.
Yeah, and that was only game 1. You know, it might have took a while-ish, but it was very explosive and turns that mattered every single time, all the way from the bombs to just when to draw, and even that KT from SilverName on curve. But that was only game 1 of this series, and we're going to be back for game number 2, but we're going to go for a quick break before we do that. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with some more Grandmasters.
I've been doing judo since I've been 5 years old. I think I stopped at 18 or so. I can't really stand the smell of coffee, so I've never drunk it. I actually have no idea, like... Okay, that's a good one.
The untrue one...
Has never had coffee is a lie.
That is true. He never had... Wow. Like, I don't like coffee either, I hate it, but at least tried it once.
Never having coffee seems like you always would have tried it, and that's why you know when you know if you like it or not. So I'm going for 2 is the lie. There we go.
He didn't judo for 12 years. I don't believe it. Oh. So he won a championship with the card that carried him towards the championship, and now he just hates the card. He should show some respect to the card. That, like, it's very important. You need to bless the good RNG as well.
I think Luna's Pocket Galaxy is not his favorite card.
It's easy for me. Zola is, he loves Luna Pocket Galaxy.
You are correct.
I think the lie is that Luna's Pocket Galaxy is his favorite card.
That is correct.
I can't imagine someone's favorite card being Pocket Galaxy. Even if it worked out for him, it makes no sense to have that as your favorite card.
We are back and ready to go with some more Hearthstone for you guys. It is going to be Jarla versus SilverName. I just lost the name for a second. I think I had the wrong deck list up. It's fine. Jarla versus SilverName. Jarla currently leading 1-0, getting a win with that, Jarla style bomb warrior, I guess, is at this point. But he has got a long way to go to take down. He's bringing some spice himself. But for now, let's take a look at one of the deck lists that's going to be played in the next game we've got coming right up. Subtle. Who are you liking so far in this one?
I do have questions, really, and I genuinely mean questions. Normally when I say I have questions about things, it means I am critical of these things, but it's just there are unproven deck lists on both sides. Jarla has proved his point with the warrior so far, getting the win of the first port of call, but SilverName, as we mentioned, still has this weirdly built, or this old-fashioned built druid deck, I guess, at this point, alongside his choice to bring Spell Mage and not Highlander Mage, which is what we're seeing more commonly from the other regions.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this Spell Mage get to work, if it does. But we're going to check out SilverName's Druid. Apologies, I teed up the wrong deck. But yeah, this is this sort of old school Druid, and it sounds weird to call a deck old school after like a couple of weeks. But it is. This is pretty much the first go around of, oh wait, Druid can end up casting a lot of big spells quick and make a ton of boards. You see the kind of relics of the past with the Anubis Half Defender, the Aeroponics as well, and even the Force of Nature, where a lot of decks now have streamlined either down to Mount Sellers or have just gone more spells. Like I said, the big one for me is the lack of Moonfires in this list, Subtle. I feel like that's what I want to add the most in this list.
Yeah, I know. Been talking to Lorinda a lot, unfortunately much more than we even usually do, because I'm kidding, Neil, I love you. He's now on board with us as a stats coordinator for the Grandmasters program, so he's helping us out with as much information as he can possibly get, and he's been saying that he felt like the Moonfires in the deck were kind of too fancy, too cute, too over the top in trying to get Kael'thas to work. So I don't know, maybe Lorinda's on board with this SilverName build of the deck.
Yeah, we find out in a few days. It's like, SilverName got his lineup from Lorinda, and we all know,
yeah.
Or at least if you know Lorinda well, and he talks to you about his ladder experience. He plays a different game on a different ladder. He lives in the alternate universe Hearthstone, which is very fascinating to hear about. But that is also Jarla's Warlock. I feel like very fairly standard. There's the Rain of Fire, arguable whether that's standard or not, but it's definitely not a shock factor in the list anymore, is it?
For sure. So we're going in now to Warlock versus the Druid once again from SilverName. And Warlock, as we know, is another deck that is packing an awful lot of clears to be able to compete with this kind of nonsense that Druid can put out. Yeah,
and I think you were one of the first people I spoke to about this Spell Druid list, because I waited a little bit to play it. It was definitely one of those decks where I was like, I'll let Dog play it and see what he comes up with. I'm not going to get involved until it's decided that this is a list. But when I started seeing lists with one or none Soul of the Forests, I was confused, because I felt like you really needed that to cement your game against certain decks. Warlock being priority number one was the one I was struggling with, because there was enough clear that I was just getting in trouble, and then I couldn't keep up with like the return swing of the Galakron turn, or even just an army of imps, to be honest. So it was a little bit tough, and again, I think SilverName is just running the one, I believe. I'll double check. Yeah, just the one Soul of the Forest, but I will say his version might actually do way better. Not because he has Soul of the Forest ×2, but because he just has more stuff in the deck, so he can actually maybe beat the waves of removal from Jarla.
Sure. SilverName off to a very, very fast start here indeed, though. With the card draw into the Overgrowth, now he's able to immediately start firing off Glowfly Swarm if he wants to start immediately threat checking his opponent. But curious as to how he's going to choose to ration out his forces here, because again, as you were saying, because he has more boards in a can, he can just choose to throw out a board in a can every single turn and just wait until Jarla doesn't find the answer for it.
Yeah, and the tricky question here for me is, on one hand, my brain just went straight to, just play Force of Nature, because it's not mind-blowing. It kind of contests the board, but still requires something from Jarla to fully remove. But on the other side is, well, if that's the case, should you Glowfly to make Jarla, who's already got a bit of a board, have to commit a lot more to remove it? Because Jarla could probably just, against the Force of Nature, trade, leave the 2/2 up, and not use any removal at this point.
Well, I was kind of curious about Jarla's previous turn because he life tapped, he hit the Alexstrasza, which is the dragon that activates his Crazed Netherwing in hand, right? So he has that locked for the next turn. But then he still proceeded to play out the Acidic Swampoos, which, you know, you would imagine if he's thinking, well, I'm going to have to Crazed Netherwing a big board next turn, that Swampoos just doesn't need to be there, right? It's just not necessary. So I don't know whether he was just, you know, planning for like a big KT turn, maybe, where having those extra attacks on board might have been very relevant alongside the Crazed Netherwing.
And like I said, his board does actually beat Force of Nature that could come down that turn.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So, and that's why it was kind of weird where I think my brain went to Force of Nature and then came to the conclusion of Glowfly because Force of Nature just doesn't even require any additional removal from Jarla, really. So maybe that was just the Ooze isn't going to do much this game. I have 2 mana. Just chuck it down. It might stop SilverName doing something, or like you said, with a KT turn, something like that. But I think even if Jarla is forced to Netherwing here, it's not the worst case outcome. But maybe he can get away with it. Maybe
that's the other thing, is like maybe he was just inventing lines where if he has this extra 3/2 in play, maybe he can just go like, you know, Nether Breath Dark Skies, for example, and maybe that will take care of a board state that he was planning for instead. Very interesting choice. But yeah, it looks like it is just going to be Netherwing.
Yeah, I was looking at, for example, double Nether Breath, double trade, and I think that is going a little bit too deep to hold on to this Netherwing. Honestly, I think that's a lot of cards, and you still don't clear is a little bit too much. But now he has just gone for the Netherwing, and also he has put SilverName to 16, which means that he still has 2 Nether Breaths in hand. That is quickly adding up to some damage. Not that he'll plan on ending the game with some burst, but sometimes it happens.
So now what is the immediate question?
I think I like Glowfly go again.
Position. Yeah.
Especially because he has the 2/0 cost to actually buff the health, which means Dark Skies is way worse.
That's fair, yeah.
You've just seen the Netherwing, which does the most consistent damage to your board. It's unlikely there's another just, you know, sat. It's as unlikely as it's going to be.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, right? Because you obviously know he has another dragon in his hand from the fact that that Netherwing went off. But even if the dragon that activated this Netherwing was Netherwing,
it's not going to be
he
active.
still needs to then have another dragon to activate, so it doesn't really change anything based
and
on
also,
that information.
it uses up enough cards that even just a flat overflow in the following turn would be fine as well. But SilverName choosing to take it slow, which surprises me a little bit. Oh my god. Okay. Fair play, SilverName, made me look stupid. But it surprised me a little bit that he kind of took this slow, because he has like 100 waves of armies. I don't think you want to take it slow versus Warlock. Unless he knows, I mean, he's played the list more than I have, but maybe he has just done this and knows that he still has more stuff than removal, so he'll just win eventually if he plays it right.
I think he's just trying to ration that second Glowfly Swarm for the Soul of the Forest, right? Because unless...
Okay, I can see it, yeah.
Unless he draws KT, he can't make a huge board and Soul of the Forest all in one turn. So if he was to pick up Soul of the Forest within his next like 3, 4, 5 draws off that overflow, for example, and not the Kael'thas, then he'd be in a position where he can just make the huge 7-minion board with Soul of the Forest on it.
Yeah, one thing that does worry me a little bit though is the longer the game goes on, the closer Jarla's going to get to Zephyrus, which is a card that can like undo SilverName's work in terms of Soul of the Forest. And any buffs he lands on the board, obviously, depending on what the board state looks like. But yeah, maybe I'm trying to... Oh, there we go. Maybe I'm trying to rush this too much. You know, like I said, maybe SilverName knows that if he slow plays it and just takes his time, he will just gradually overpower Jarla's Warlock.
There's also timing issues with this deck where it's all well and good like making the big board, but if you can't then immediately capitalize on it on the next turn, your opponent can like stall out. So right now, even if he made like the big board of 2/2s, he doesn't have like a Gift of the Wild, a Power of the Wild, a Savage Roar, or whatever else to pay that off. So that might inspire him to actually keep waiting a little bit more as well.
Yeah, or at least try and work an overflow in this turn to just get to those cards, right? Get to something that's bursty.
Right. You could also like innovate the play this turn with the Glowfly Swarm, and then use the overflow next turn. But that would only really pay you off with Power of the Wild, exactly, I guess.
Right. And one of the tough calls as well is how long does SilverName wait for KT? Because he has a lot of 0-mana spells right now, but they're spells he could utilize. And he is going to go for it. He's going to go for the Soul of the Forest. He is going to use the Iron Barks. So this is... I'm not going to say it's SilverName going all in, because he has overflow. He can just draw, half his cards again. But this is him committing a lot of his key resources in this matchup. Ooh. And now all Jarla has to do, really, is get rid of as much of this as possible with as little sort of hit back from SilverName the following turn. And I don't think he can.
Nope. Moarg Dark Skies is a heck of a card in this position.
Yep, it really is. And sorry about that. The spectator seems to have maybe disconnected there, so we'll get right back in the game. But they will be continuing. Don't you worry. You get to look at us for another few minutes. But yeah, it seemed it's a shame, really, because that was getting to a very spicy point. I'm not sure if Jarla... Yeah, I don't think there's any way he could have cleared that board safely. And I think that he's probably going to have to make a halfway clear where he gets rid of as many separate attacking minions as possible and use those Nether Breaths to actually heal. So we'll see how that goes. Although you might be spectating this game, so you can just radio it if you want, Sol.
I am low-key kind of tilted because that was the most important turn of the game, probably. But yeah, as in typical Jarla fashion, nothing had happened. But yes, I am on my own spectator account, so if anything would have happened, I would have told you about it.
Nice.
But yeah, you are back in time to see the action live as it happens. That was pretty much the best Jarla had: one Nether Breath and a Nether Wing to be able to cut down the board state significantly.
And Jarla shaking his head, just presuming probably there's going to be Savage Roar, Power of the Wild, something like that. But there isn't. So he got away with this one. And this is what I mean by none of his clears were safe from Jarla's point of view. Because at this point in the game, you just expect some kind of burst damage, right?
And this is why I was asking the question of, like, do you wait until you have the big way to pay this off, right? Because you've seen Jarla in the position that he's in was actually able to pick this apart over 2 turns because SilverName committed to the big board without having the huge punish straight after it to follow it up. He does now have Power of the Wild if he wants to push quite a lot of extra damage, but it's still something that Jarla would arguably be able to deal with. So yeah, just a question of like whether SilverName was supposed to wait there a little bit longer until he was able to find something to pay off that board state.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering if Power of the Wild and Bog Beam is just the go, because he still has plenty of buffs in the deck, right? He has a Gift of the Wild, and he has the Savage Roar. So he's got effectively burst damage. So I think I like this. You've just seen Jarla kind of struggle to clear these boards. So now get rid of the Netherwing, get it out of the way, and now push. And if they clear this, well, you just need to draw something next turn. But he does have the Force of Nature in hand as backup.
Hold on. There is, 3, 6, 9, 15 health on board. And Jarla, if he plays Moarg and Dark Skies, would have 5 other cards in his hand. So his Dark Skies would deal 12. If he life taps, it deals 14, which is still 1 short.
But also the Moarg has health too. You have to add 4.
That's true. Yeah, okay. So he's some way off.
Yep.
You're right.
But he could do that and then Nether Breath afterwards.
Yeah, no, that still doesn't get there because you can't life tap to add the card before you do all of that then.
Yeah, true. Coil might help a tiny bit.
It's the best he's got though, really, isn't it?
Okay, my question, can he ever just Nether Breath with Moarg? Nether Breath to 4/6, heal for 8?
Is there ever merit to coil one of the 3/3s first so that a Dark Sky shot doesn't overkill it?
Now we're
and that
talking.
way you guarantee efficiency. Or even the 4/6, since it's going to deal 2.
Indeed. I don't have a good answer for you, Sol, because I'm not sure. It's a tough
The best
turn.
play is that you just rip the Dark Skies, you kill a bunch of minions, and then your Moarg survives, and you just sack pack your Moarg just to chill at the end.
I mean,
That's the real man play.
If you were really good at Hearthstone, that's what you would have done.
Yes.
I
Super interesting turn. I would have loved to have just spent like 1 hour on that turn alone.
If we live in the world we do, where we are limited, or Jarla is limited by time, I do like this play as a nice in-between. It's fairly safe, you heal, you do put a reasonable minion on board. If it's not cleared, you do get to do a big Dark Skies, or at least an okay Dark Skies next turn. I think this ticks the most boxes in the short amount of time you have to consider. And now...
Yeah, problem is now that... The problem for me is now that he's used his Moarg and he has this Dark Skies in hand with a small hand. So, I don't think the Dark Skies is ever quite going to do enough from this position.
He might just be hoping there's not a big refill, honestly.
Have you seen SilverName's deck list? That's his
whole
whole deck.
But sometimes you just need him to just have an Albatross. And that's his only card. Sometimes that's just the way it is.
That's true, yeah. He has disrupted the deck a little bit with the Albatrosses.
And I don't think SilverName played any Overgrowths, right? So he's got the one in hand and still one in deck too. So there are some dead cards. And yes, that's the second Moarg Artificer, which means Dark Sky plan is a go.
14, 17,
and there's still the coil to just kill off a minion if he wants. Straight.
Yeah.
He could start with
20
a coil.
total on board. That'll be 24 with the Artificer if it comes down. So he's still some way off.
Well, he can draw another one with coil first. Oh, it only replaces it. What am I talking about? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Still, 4, 5, 6. I was working out. Yeah. He just has to, right? Wait, he should have coiled, right?
Why?
Because it kills a minion.
But now it killed a 3/1 taunt instead of a 2/2.
I guess. Yep, you're right. Wait, did that Moarg just dodge everything? Dodge it all there? What a god! Okay, well, he got away with that one. And now there is Devoted Maniac and Dragon Blight to summon imps to then sacrificial pact those and an Alexstrasza. So Jarla looks like he's in a rough spot because he's facing down some damage right now. And SilverName could draw Savage Roar, which would end the game.
Yep. Has the overflow to draw almost half of his remaining deck.
Oh yeah, you just don't. Oh no, overflow heal though, won't it?
Yep.
So
if he overflows, then he'll go back up to 19,
Savage
and then he'll have 9 + 8, 17. Yeah. So he'll be 2 off.
Yeah, I like the fungal.
So you just do it with Fungal Fortunes instead. Yep, makes sense.
Worst case, you just overflow as well if you really want to, you know. There's Aeroponics, which is free.
Aeroponics for 0. Gift of the Wild, +6. That makes 15 damage coming through, and SilverName is going to square up that series. Super interesting game. I enjoyed that a lot.
And again, I will just quickly point out that I think a more standard spell druid would not have won that game actually, because SilverName threw everything at Jarla that game and the kitchen sink. Right, he used both Force of Natures. He got off the Soul of the Forest as well. He seemed to actually, outside of Forest Aid, he played both sets of Glowflies. So he did throw everything at him and just about got there. I think without those Force of Natures to maybe do the half pushes or bridge the gap, he would have struggled a lot more because maybe Jarla would have actually gained the board at some point.
It's possible. I think it's debatable because you have to look at it the other way, whereas a more streamlined Kael'thas deck would have popped off super hard with the KT, with Moonfires or whatever else at that point. Yeah. So during that 1 to 2 turns where Jarla was struggling, a more streamlined deck would have pushed way harder, way faster than SilverName's deck was able to do. So apples and oranges, maybe, who knows? You'd have to run it back.
Yep, but he still did get the win with the Druid deck, which again is more of a older style than the most up-to-date lists. He got a win with it, and he is here. He has already made it through a good chunk of the Swiss, ended up in top 8 to get into this group in the first place. So something's going right. SilverName taking a win with that Druid puts the score at 1-1. SilverName with that Spell Mage and the Warlock left, and then Jarla with his own Druid and his Warlock we've just seen left over as well. And honestly, Sottle, I do not know where Spell Mage slots into any matchup. I'm not sure how you can call certain matchups favored or not with Spell Mage, because I feel like it's a deck where you just let it take the wheel and see where it takes you. And I'm not saying you can't pilot it well, but I don't know what it's supposed to be good or bad against. is my main point here.
No, Highlander Mage is the Reno take the wheel deck. Okay, like, I mean, I guess they both play amazing Reno, so it can still come down to that. Interestingly, like, I think if you look at the stats, Spell Mage actually seems to perform pretty well against multiple different builds of Demon Hunter, but particularly the OTK deck.
Right.
Because I'm not sure about SilverName's exact list, but just Deep Freeze on its own is just an absolute nightmare for Demon Hunter to be able to have to deal with.
He is running a hard 0 Deep Freeze, which is
there you go.
Blowing my tiny mind. I think that card's insane. I don't know if you need to run 2 like some people were theorizing, but I think 1 is just, outside of it being just strictly good against, say, combo Demon Hunter, it's 2 water elementals in 1 card, and you can freeze something. That's just value, as far as I'm concerned. I will say, and then maybe a quiet beast in this deck is Font of Power. It discovers 3 mage minions, and if you have no other minions in the deck, you get to keep them all. And the quality of mage minion at the moment, especially when you look into the legendaries, is pretty good, especially when you consider the prime. That is a pretty tasty one, isn't it, Sol?
It certainly is, yeah. One of the more powerful prime effects for sure. Essentially just puzzle box, but with only the good outcomes, basically, is what it's going to end up doing. But I personally fixate on the other card here, Incanter's Flow. It if you get it in the early game, it's 2 mana discount your deck by 25 mana, which that sounds pretty strong to me when you look at it in those terms.
And so I'll tell you a little story that you'll probably laugh at me for.
Okay.
Day 1, maybe 2, I played some Spell Mage because why not? It's a bit of a crazy deck, isn't it? Give it a try.
Yep.
I Incanter's Flow twice by turn 3. Yeah. And I was playing fireballs and stuff in the deck, and I was like, hang on a minute, have I just discovered Freeze Mage again? And then I tried to just build a Freeze Mage deck. Oh, it's with Incanter's Flow. I was like, no, I'm bad. Never mind. I'm nowhere near good enough to build anything close, but I thought Freeze Mage maybe could get there. But one last card as we get into this game I do want to talk about, because I feel it is one that's had a huge power spike, is Learn Draconic. You've seen the quest go down now for SilverName. That 6/6 comes out on turn 3/4 a lot of the time if you play it on 1 with this deck. And that is a turn 4 6/6, whilst you're also playing other spells. So I've been smoked down by Spell Mage before is the point I'm getting to here. And it can happen quite often. Maybe surprisingly so.
I was going to say, for a moment there, you were almost just getting ready to send up the George C signal, Freeze Mage is back, summon the boy. But it didn't quite work out. But yeah, I agree with you. Learn Draconic is a powerful card in this deck. It does have weird anti-synergy in some regards with Incanter's Flow, because suddenly you can you play turn 1 Learn Draconic, turn 2 Incanter's Flow, and then you start drawing 1 mana spells in your deck, which cost 0, so aren't progressing your quest. Can get kind of frustrating.
Yep, and I think although it is semi-reflective of matchup, I think you see the value of Font of Power as well, because SilverName turned down a Ray of Frost, which is also an incredibly good card in itself for a Font of Power. And let's see what he got. Okay, not mind-blowing here, but he did get Double Dragon, which... he got a dragon and the...
Double Dragon!
I think the new one's coming out soon, or is that the Streets of Rage? I think it's Streets of Rage. But anyway,
Good old Bimmy and Jimmy. Let's go.
Dragoncaster with a dragon as well means he can do something here with this. It's not just a plain Dragoncaster that's left stranded sometimes, as is the case.
Sure.
Definitely feel like Jarla is going to end up being the reactive one, as is, happens quite often with this deck, being the Warlock, because Spell Mage is definitely a list that sometimes you burn them, sometimes you control, sometimes you play value, but Jarla definitely has to worry about the burn side more than anything here, because that's the one he's going to struggle the most to deal with. Whereas if you're going to play a value game with Plague of Flames and all the other removal tools he has in the list, I think that's one Jarla's probably okay with playing out.
Is he going to struggle against Burn? Like, his deck plays double Nether Breath, double Sacrificial Pact, Alexstrasza, Galakron. That's, like, infinite healing.
Oh, so... yes, but I feel like a lot of the burn happens quicker than at least Galakron and Alexstrasza can.
Okay.
I've been really killed by this list sometimes.
It's sounding that way, yeah. That has not been my experience.
Okay.
It's interesting.
Maybe, again, I'm quite happy to say it's just, me judging off a smaller sample size of games of what happened to me. But even if... Yeah, Jarla's already on board, so it's not so bad. But even if this dragon now hits you once... Well, that's a bit spicy. You've just been whacked on turn 4 or 5 by a 6/6 out of nowhere.
Sure.
There are some duds, I would say, in the list, though, in this specific matchup. The Ancient Mysteries pulling 2 Flame Wards or Ice Barriers are the only secrets in the list, which means they're not really offensive secrets. They're built way more for matchups like Demon Hunter, like Warrior, and stuff like that. So SilverName is going to effectively have a few dud draws. You can see one of the Flame Wards in his hand, and I think that's a discovered one. The other one's from the Ancient Mysteries, right? So you can see that they're going to have lower value against Warlocks. It's not so bothered about the aggressive plays, but even an Apex's Blast doing some damage to face out of nowhere can be a little bit scary.
Yeah, I think the upside that he does have is, even though these secrets are perhaps a little bit low value in the matchup, he did get the Cloud Prince. Is that the name of the card?
Yeah.
Off his random discover, so he at least has that like immediate swing, right? Especially since he got one of the Flame Wards discounted to 0. He just has that like on demand whenever he needs it.
Yep.
Which could end up being pretty powerful.
And there's Incantus Flow. Just bear in mind it only affects cards in your deck. Spells in your deck, not in your hand. If it was in your hand, holy moly. Like, the Mage would just be absurd. There would be Freeze Mage, I think, if Incantus Flow affected in your hand.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But yeah, the Apex's Blast is live. Its requirement is that there are no minions in the deck, which the deck was built like that. So that makes sense. But yeah, there is some burst available, but overall, I think SilverName's just trying to get this game to continue and definitely get this Incantus Flow off soonish rather than later. Although it doesn't lead to a great turn this turn, does it? Maybe he just does that and plays the expensive Flame Ward and just say, well, here's my discount turn, deal with it.
Yeah, it seems a bit ugly. I don't know, I feel like you might just have to bypass the flow this turn.
I'm just wondering whether anything else feels like you're playing it into Imps, and then if they just... I don't know, the Imps being there is actually infuriating for SilverName now, I think. Because if he could just secret Cloud Prince on an empty board, or Apex's Blast on an empty board, he'd feel way better. Because that Imp can just insta-kill any minion that comes out here. With the help of a Plague of Flames, of course.
Yep.
Now there's even more.
Yeah, the problem is, I think if he's waiting for this like Galakron Warlock to be clear, like board to be clear before he starts playing his stuff, he's going to be waiting a very long time. Like, he's behind this game, like Jarla has development on him.
It's why
he needs to start catching up, not like waiting for perfect scenarios to do things.
It's why, honestly, I was talking about just play the bad Flame Ward right now. Just use the mana and just let it kill the Imps. You know what I mean? And just clear something off so you can start get something cooking. Oh, not bad. There is removal for days, though, isn't there? Right now, for Jarla.
Yeah, there's removal for days, there's healing for days, and there's also pressure for days once he gets a few more invokes on this Galakron as well. Like, this deck is so well-rounded. I think there's a really good reason that if you look up the matchup spread for this deck, it really seems to have very few weaknesses right now.
And even in the games or matchups it struggles with, it still has windows where it wins, right? It's not like, oh, this is impossible. It's mainly, it just has a bigger window for their opponent to grab the win than anything else, I think, at least. SilverName does just have Power of Creation for 7 mana now if he wants to just summon 2 reasonably sized dudes, but instead are going to go for that Cloud Prince to take care of the Netherwing, get the secret active, whipping a ping to face, and just say, Jarla, back to you, mate.
Yep, just going to continue fighting for board as best he can, which I think personally is sensible. I think is the plan that he has to be on. Like, I don't see this like burn plan working against Warlock personally. I think he absolutely needs to just win board, but honestly, I don't really see how his deck does that either.
Yeah, me neither. Mainly, for me, no Yogg-box, and along with there being no Yogg-box, there's no Power of Creation and Deep Freeze.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure there's enough minion summons in the deck outside of Generation.
Right.
You know, if Font of Power gets you a Prime and then Prime does something great, and you know, if you get the Antonidas or you know any of the crazy stuff like that, fantastic. But I think other lists that I've seen of this are much more just never-ending waves of late-game value to get you there. But maybe this has done SilverName well because he's been taking down more aggressive decks with it and not Warlock.
Sure, yeah.
Because I can definitely see him beating aggro decks with this.
He has now drawn the Amazing Reno, though, and with the Amazing Reno, all and anythings are possible.
Real
See if
frustration
SilverName
now.
can match up to some of the nonsense that we saw in, I think, APAC on day one. What did we saw? Like overdraw to mill basically every good card in your deck, and then we also saw transform your entire hand of valuable stuff into random demons during APAC on day one. So that was fun. Yeah.
I will say though, that turn was miserable for SilverName, unless he got either rush minions or Ken, you know, some kind of death rattle, because playing 2 6 drops into 2 imps when Plague of Flames exist is a horrible experience, but he got away with it with Ken, so not too bad for SilverName there.
Yeah, Ken was pretty nutty there. I guess like gyrocopters or something was also pretty useful. That's what the Rushwind Fury thing's called, right?
Yep, and you know, Argent Commanders, just all the silly things like that. Very interested to see if how much Jarla feels he can just take. Like, can he just clear wave 1 of these and then take 8 next turn? Does he feel comfortable with that? By the looks of it, yes.
Apparently he does. Yeah.
He could plague just one of them off if he really wanted to, but I think if he was scared in that fashion, he wouldn't have made this play. He would have done something completely different. So yeah, very interesting. Feels comfortable with the 8 here. He is on 25, so fairly safe.
So SilverName now has to view this as his window, right? Like, that's a weak turn from Jarla. I mean, it was a fairly strong turn. It just wasn't enough to counteract what he did for the first time this game. Unfortunately, he doesn't really have a hand that does anything to capitalize on this pressure or this board dominance that he has right now, which is kind of unfortunate.
It is, and I think, you know, I'll go back to just why I feel the deck is built how it is. If you just look at the secret package, there's Ice Barriers and Flame Wards, 2 hyper defensive secrets. They do nothing on offense, really. Whereas, is it Netherwing something, or Netherwing Portal is the new secret, where if your opponent plays a spell, you get a 4-drop. Like, that's much more aggressive, right? Because if they play a spell to remove something of yours, you summon something else. So then it makes it much harder and is much more of an aggressive style. But with SilverName playing none of that, he has to do what he can with these Banes right now. Or just rely on your favourite card, Sol, the Amazing Reno.
Said dripping in buckets of irony from Raymond.
As your Explorer will do something. There are a lot of very impactful dragons as well that SilverName can get hold of to maybe help, but
This is spell damage guy, isn't it? The Azure Explorer?
Does he not discover?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so he can discover like a threat, basically.
Yep. My bad. Misunderstood.
It is your bad, Sol, but I'll let you off. Oof.
Okay.
Okay, that was funny.
Interesting.
Crazy Netherwing. Gonna do the job though. He is. Jarla's getting a bit low. Oh, Font of
Yeah, you're not
Power.
wrong.
Oof.
He does have Moag Artificer Nether Breath in hand though for a big refill.
Yep.
Which is pretty strong.
He would have
So
to aim
probably
at a
not
minion though.
Too concerned just yet. Well, luckily, SilverName just discovered 3 of those.
But look at the main man. Oh, another one.
Oh!
Just go Solarians. That's
Oh!
2 Solarians. The prime.
Stack 'em
If you
up.
don't know.
Let your deck take the wheel. The one true way to play Mage in 2020.
Honestly, what goes through Jarla's mind, right? If SilverName just drops 2 Solarians right now, you'd be like, not like this.
Yep.
Like, maybe I don't kill them. Can I freeze them somehow? Because it's definitely a card that can just kill you when you're on 13 health. I'm not even overly exaggerating here.
We flirted for a day or so with the idea of Freeze Shaman, but I don't think we've got as far as Freeze Warlock yet, right?
It just runs the Shadow Weavers, and it's like, well, this counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. SilverName took his time there, but I would have been shocked if he did not pick Solarian from that Discover.
Yep, and that is a Rutro from Jarla down the bottom. He knows that is some scary business that has just come out of SilverName's deck. And here's a card
that
Jarla has been missing the entire game up until this point, something that we probably should have touched on earlier. Multiple cards in SilverName's deck say if your deck has no minions, which, bad luck Albatross, we're used to thinking of it in terms of shutting off Highlander cards. Of course, it just shuts off if your deck has no spells effects. Has no minions effects on top of that as well.
And the problem with this now is it is honestly just too late, because with SilverName playing the Solarian, if you don't know what he does, when he dies, he shuffles the Prime version into the deck, which is a minion. So SilverName no longer cares about his deck being clean of minions. He has played Solarians, which is completely correct. So now this Albatross, a little bit too late, mate, unfortunately. And now, suddenly, the anti-aggro tools of these secrets, oh my god, with the 5 spell damage, take some of that Netherwing. Might actually just give SilverName the time to maybe try and draw the 2 primes to get something crazy done. You know, maybe chain them or something.
Sack Packed Plague of Flames? Is that where this is going to end up? It is. Wow, so he actually doesn't pair together his Artificer with his Nether Breath even.
And also, it's such a rough spot because he's just used all of that, but now there are 2 primes in the deck. Like, he almost didn't want to kill the Solarians, but you can't just leave them alive to, you know, hit you every turn anyway. Very tough spot there for Jarla.
He does now have fully invoked Galakron, though. That was his 4th that he just played that turn. So he can, at least in his mind, try and flick the switch, right? Like, he has Galakron, Smackface, Alexstrasza, Smackface with the weapon, then Nether Breath and Kronks to follow that up for, you know, the 2-turn kill, essentially. So, you know, Jarla's got some hope here that he might actually get to be the aggressor in this position.
He does, but SilverName has a always invoked Reno, which will quickly and swiftly deal with Galakron, at least the wave of demons he summons. Unless
I say you don't even necessarily need those minions, though, right? When you have the Claw plus Alexstrasza plus Kronks, the Claw, plus Kronks plus Zephyrus, like you can just kind of burst them down straight
and
after Alex.
I was going to say as well, just a note, Reno doesn't deal with dormant minions, and a lot of the demons are dormant, which means it's like a delayed attack sometimes, or often actually. Yeah, I was also going to do the Inspector Gadget voice as well for that, because that guy's called Claw, isn't he, the bad guy? Do you? No? Yeah. Inspector Gadget fan? Is it not? Hello.
I did used to watch it when I was a kid, but I have no real memory of it.
Oh, okay. He has the cat, doesn't he?
He got the Antaean.
Wow. That's actually insane, right? The Antaean. It
spicy,
dodges Reno, and then in 2 turns, take 10 damage.
And it just perfectly plays into the burn plan of just, you know, Alex, Zephyrus, whatever else. You know, I harped on pretty much all of yesterday of, like, this is really what I think this deck is at its core, which is just do stuff to survive until you have a fully invoked Galakron, and then kill your opponent with your Pyroblast Claw. Like, that's basically what it comes down to sometimes.
And just to outline some queries that I have no doubt plenty of people have about dormant minions, it basically does not exist on the board, is the easiest way to explain it.
Correct.
Reno
yes.
does not poof it away. Brawl does not affect it in any shape or form. It cannot be frozen. It cannot be dealt with in any way until it is out of its dormancy, which means that Reno poofs everything apart from the Antian, as an example. Which is, as we just outlined, a pretty big deal at this point in the game. The Prime is drawn from SilverName, but I believe this is leaning more towards some kind of Blizzard shenanigans, unless SilverName is just happy to let Reno take over. It does gain him 5 armor, and it does mean that...
he does still have 8 more to come from this second ice barrier as well, which means even after Alexstrasza, he's going to have, 13, 16 total extra armor on top of that?
It's actually a tough call, this one. It's a real awkward spot, and as I said, you are... Oh, I don't have the page up. I'm rubbish. I failed as a caster. But you are fairly likely, I'm going to say, to get some kind of dormant minion from a full Galakron play. I do not have the number. I apologize, Lorinda, who's probably listening. I'm sorry.
55.6%.
There we go. I have like every other information page open apart from that one.
Don't worry, Neil. One of us takes your work seriously and values it enough to have it open while we're casting. I just want you to know that I've got your back, okay?
Thanks, Song. I actually feel bad, but SilverName does go for the Reno, but as you can see, still has this demon to deal with, who's going to pop out pretty soon. And now Krunks is active, Zephyrus is active, Netherbreath's live. As you mentioned, maybe this is just Alexstrasza. I don't know.
It's still so much armor, though, is the problem, right?
But it's an 8/8.
He goes down to 23, but then he goes up to 31 again off the ice barrier attack. Like, the burn you down with Pyroblast Claw is a long way off here.
But 8/8's help is I guess my... It's not only the air quote 5 damage that Alexstrasza will do, but also just dumping a minion without overcommitting much else to the board. Because I feel like Alexstrasza is the least flexible, and if SilverName pushes Jarla to the extent where Jarla feels like he needs to Alex himself, I think he's in an extremely bad spot and probably loses that game.
Agreed.
So I think this is the best turn for this specific turn. It's just the least flexible. And now,
just so awkward.
What's Reno gonna do? There we go. Buff the Alex, easy peasy.
Okay.
Just take
damage
note.
is probably less scary than health there, because SilverName is going to like persistently freeze with blizzards and so on, so actually like more health to survive more of that stuff would probably have been bigger.
So the Prime has drawn stuff, i.e. the other Prime, because I was going to say, take note that Font of Power is not active.
Oh god!
But it is now!
Oh, no, that's illegal. Stop. No, I quit. I don't want to cast Hearthstone anymore. I emphatically do not want to cast this game anymore. That's nonsense.
Can we get a slow-mo replay of Jarla's face at some point soon, please? Again, just to note, the Dormant Minion is not affected by anything that happens right now.
Yeah, it's just chilling.
Oh, burn, burn, burn. Evocation gone. Incanter's Flow gone. My sanity gone.
And just a Lord of the Arena to wrap it all up.
Look at those Murlocs just having a good time.
Oh, jeez. This video game sometimes, honestly, I swear. Sure. Seems fine.
And that
had space issues, by the way, if anyone's
Yes.
like genuinely curious of what was going on there.
And it kind of dealt with the Antian issue, didn't it, that board, let's be honest. Like that, he tickled the Murlocs there. Is this just going to have to be a Kronk Steel 5?
Kronk Steel 5 is solid, yeah. Zephyrus is the other option.
I think Zephyrus is potentially more impactful later. For maybe an extra snap heal or something. Maybe just Krunks and then play the Albatross. Because now, I mean, Jarla won't necessarily know, but now the Albatross will have an effect again because now there are no minions left in the deck. Not that there's many cards left in the deck, actually. So.
Wait, really? Did the other Prime get burned?
Something happened because the font of power was active. The font of power glowed yellow. Maybe that was just a visual thing.
Okay.
But the font of power was yellow because I was about to say last turn, oh, the font of power isn't active. He played Solarian, and then the font of power was yellow again.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Press that annihilation. And the heroic dormant Murloc is gonna poop out 2/1/1 Murlocs in just a turn or so.
Sorry, what did you say?
The dormant Murloc is going to summon 2/1/1 Murlocs in just a turn or so.
Okay. I think genuinely, like your audio cut a little bit.
Probably
so
for the
whether
better.
you said, yeah, whether you said boop out or yeah.
Or toot out.
I'm not sure what's devolved into madness further, this game of Hearthstone or our casting, Raven.
Both simultaneously. Forest. Oh, I forgot about the Forest. That's just a load of stuff. Can go for the Frost Nova as well if he really wants to. Only 2 mana. Yeah, is he really gonna ice Rare Frost here instead of Nova? Okay. This seems better. And now once again, Jarla a little bit on the back foot and on the defensive, and not in the way he imagined he would be, I guess, because the Solarian into the box just kind of threw the game out the window, honestly. And there's still every turn of Reno to wonder what's going to happen. It's just, how do you even deal? I know you hate this type of situation, Sottle, but for Jarla, in a game he wants to win, what should he do? How is he dealing with this, where basically anything can actually happen?
You have a lot of outs. So the way I look at things personally is like, you can't calculate everything that Reno can do to the board. It's just nonsense, right? Like, it's just maddening, and you'll just drive yourself insane doing it, so forget about it. I think what you can hope for here is the percentage of the time that Reno draws cards, which is relatively high. So if you can just like stall out as Jarla and just continue to, keep pressure, not be under any pressure of dying yourself, and suddenly you're just waiting for Reno to cast, Overflow or anything like that suddenly pushes Silver now past Jarla into fatigue and deals massive amounts of damage. That's always a big out that you have in your back pocket when you're playing against amazing Reno.
Yeah, so the main thing for Jarla is to just survive. Destroy minion contract there. Not really going to do too much, taking down a 2/2. There's an extra little token. But yeah, I do agree. And it's not even just that one card. There's like Sprint, Arcane Intellect. There's a ton of cards that could draw. And that actually happens more often than you would think, that Reno actually just ends the game against himself most of the time. There is Font of Power. See, yeah, Font of Power is active, as far as I can see.
Yes. Yep, you're correct.
Which means there are no minions left. And this looks like as good a Blizzard as SilverName is probably going to get at this point. He's had a few decent Blizzards options this game. But I think that now he needs to maybe Blizzard, get this 4/9 out of the way, and try and push some damage and end this game. Because I'm pretty sure he'll be well aware that Reno likes drawing cards as well as you do.
Yeah, the Explorer Blizzard seems reasonable here.
He could even pair. Oh, sorry. He could pair it with the.
Much of a worry.
Because he can use the 5 mana Blizzard. He can use the Ray of Frost as well, which is really nice.
That is actually pretty strong, yeah.
And can push some damage. So Jarla, once again, as you said, all Jarla really needs to do is survive. But can he? Because this is another reasonably threatening board here from SilverName. And Jarla is almost out of cards himself.
I was going to say, so the 2/2s aren't that big of a worry because of Holy Nova being Zephyrus' new favourite card in positions like this. So he is always going to have that opportunity to get out of range a little bit and take care of the board state. But that Azure Explorer now has kind of thrown a little bit of a wrench in that plan. I don't think he wants to be in the business of Plague of Flaming his own 8-4 and 6-2 in this position if he can avoid it.
Also, as well, I imagine at this point he probably doesn't want to play Albatross, right? So he doesn't want to
No,
give
no,
SilverName
absolutely
more
not.
cards in
Absolutely
his deck,
not.
so that's
Yeah.
just kind of sat there chilling.
Yep.
Because I had a game the other day against a Res Priest, and I was a Priest, and I think he thought I was the same. I was actually just Galacron Priest, and he actually rezzed and shuffled a million Albatross in the deck, and I was like, thank you, sir. I'm going to win this game in fatigue. It was great. So you do always have to be aware that Albatross is definitely a double-edged sword a lot of the time.
Trying to work out what the last card is. I think it's Acidic Swamp Ooze, actually. Just checking to see if that had any huge effect on anything, but no. Acidic Swamp Ooze is about as ineffectual a card as I can think of in this position.
Disagree. Reno could play Upgrade next turn.
Ah, good point. Yeah. Got me there.
Ha! And oh, Nova not too shabby at all if SilverName thinks he can get enough time. And honestly, he can use a lot of it. He's got a lot of time here because he has Blizzard, he has Frost Nova. There's Frostball Apex's Blast from hand, which can be used to do some burst. Not a lot, but some. And also he could play now the Water Elemental to set up for bigger Water Elemental that I can't remember the name of. Is it Avalanche Elemental or something?
Animated Avalanche.
Oh, come on, that was close.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, and he's going to as well. So this is going to give him even more juice going into later turns. And just, you know, again, he has a 2-mana Frost Nova, which means he can basically do this all over again next turn. Who was Swamp Ooze? Mini prize for you, Sottle. I think Jarla's just out.
Out of stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's. I'm looking at his hand, and I'm not gonna lie to you, Sol. It's not looking good, is it?
What if?
And my brain is so frazzled from this game that I'm not even sure what the tipping point was. Was it the Solarian, I guess, into the box?
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Good explorer comes prepared.
Evasive Feywings, probably the best. Oh, he's going for Rush instead. Trying to answer some minions that SilverName may play. Lifesteal? Oh, okay. And the last card in SilverName's deck was a Ray of Frost. Not too bad either.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna try and guess that one because my deck tracker for his side is just full
Broken.
of random nonsense that's been generated for in this game. So.
So now I do imagine we are going to see this Frostball Apex's Blast saved to just push for lethal next turn.
End the game. Yeah.
Told you it bursts to win, so.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Eventually.
You absolutely nailed this one,
I know,
Raven.
yeah. Analysis on point. Sorry, my in-depth knowledge of Spell Mage isn't quite there yet.
Jeez, look at the state of this game.
I'm almost glad I don't see Deck Tracker right now. Zephyrus would probably offer him Shadow Word, kill 5 attack minions or more.
Yes.
But what does that actually achieve? Him not dying next turn, but probably dies the turn after.
Yep.
But Jarla should play it out because honestly, he's Reno casting 1 sprint away from winning this game. So he definitely needs to do something to play.
So then he's going to reload board, like Ooze, Hero Power, Zephyrus? Is that the plan? Yep. Okay.
Yep, I like this. Yeah, Shadow Word Ruin, apologise for not knowing it. I thought it was pretty catchy. Kill 5 attack minions on that. Gonna go for the attack to just give him the highest outs this turn to win the game. Coordinated Strike is not going to be the card draw Jarla wants, but Jarla is not dead yet. Those only have Rush. Can't go face, which means SilverName yet again has to piece something together. Learn Draconic, not too bad at all. Actually, just an extra 6/6 is kind of what he's after to accelerate the end of this game.
Yeah, between Learn Draconic, Arcane Missiles, Flame Ward, etc., random stuff that he has in his hand, none of these minions get to connect with his face anyway, so he doesn't really have to be too worried about them.
I'd like him starting with the... well, oh, I guess he doesn't cast it this turn, right? What if he just... He'll know what's left outside of the dragon. So depending on what he casts this turn, I wondered if he just wanted to go for like Learn Draconic and Nova. And maybe even just play the Flame Ward, just to use, like, try and activate the Learn Draconic. And go for the Apex Blast instead. And the winner is... Oh, pretty good. Probably hard to find a bad minion to pull off there because it's just a minion. Doesn't get traded into by the Evasive Worm though. Okay. Jarla just cannot believe it. And SilverName going to take the win with his Spell Mage. And quite frankly, that's kind of what you expect when you play or play against Spell Mage. You really are playing a different game of Hearthstone every single time because the win conditions change with almost every card draw, or at least every big effect in your deck. And we saw that from the effect of the Font of Powers and the Discovers, again, of the Solarian of the Prime, which I said right in the beginning was, at least in my experience with the deck, the highest impact outcomes, right? Font of Power, those mage minions, a lot of them create your game plan for you.
Yeah, super good. That card is terrifying. Like, I described it as Puzzle Box without the bad outcomes when you first brought it up. And then, you know, I guess Puzzle Box without the bad outcomes, plus a Puzzle Box that you cast for free as well, that still had good outcomes. Yeah, I mean, I was certainly entertained by that game, but I just don't really know how I'm supposed to do my job in it. Like, what was there to analyze? He played a card and then the game ended, you know?
Yeah,
like, what do you want?
We can just chat, Sol. We can just chat.
All right, how's your day been going?
It's not been going too bad, but we're actually out of that game now, so we have to go back to doing our job. I will say,
Nice.
just as a final note, imagine if when Solarian cast Box, the Box also only targeted like enemy minions when possible, like that. Just break the game completely. But anyway, SilverName is going to have his Warlock left to take this win over Jarla, whereas Jarla has his Warlock we just saw to quite an extensive fashion since we saw every card in his deck, and he does have his Druid as well. So I'm feeling that, considering SilverName has Galakron's Warlock, that he's got to feel in a reasonable position, because I personally just think it has a good game versus the Druid. So it's a mirror match, and I think a decent matchup for SilverName. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, still, I know we've had this debate multiple times, but I'm still like a much bigger fan of Druid in that matchup than you appear to be. But of course, he does still have like a Warlock mirror to fall back on, even if we do have the debate about where that matchup comes down. So obviously, SilverName is in a good position just by nature of being 2-1 up in the series. And for me, the Spell Mage was the big question mark, because it is one giant question mark. So it's good that he's able to get that one over the line. I think now he's in about as secure a position in the series as he could really hope for going into it.
Yeah, now things start to get a little bit tricky as well, because if we just put aside the Warlock Druid just for a minute, the Warlock mirror in itself feels strange, because it plays unlike the deck is built to be played with a lot of the time, because a lot of the time the Warlock deck is built to do quite well versus any aggressive forms, right? You have the healing, you've got the sustain, you've got the removal, but in the mirror, as we're about to head into and find out now, it becomes a little bit weird, because you have to manage your removal in almost the perfect way, and if you don't, then you end up that one turn behind, and then you just get stomped by demons, in at least my experience in this mirror.
Reasonable starts for both sides. SilverName sat with the dead Alexstrasza for some time, but that can still be a good activator for him if he picks up Netherwing in the coming turns.
Yep, just so it's there. It's not the end of the world, and also this matchup, it's not the fastest matchup in the world, which means you're not hyper punished for having a bit of a slow card in your opening hand. How do you like to play this, Sal? Do you like to play aggressive? Do you like to try and just utilize every, eke the most out of every single card possible? Or do you play fast and loose?
I mean, I don't want to say fast and loose, but I guess on that spectrum that you're describing, I'm on the fast and loose side. Like,
Okay.
you know, as I've been saying, like, I just want to get my Galakron down and just be that guy, you know? Like, if you've got the pressure going with a quadruple invoked Galakrons, especially if your opponent doesn't have Ooze in their deck, which, of course, we know that Jarla does, having just drawn it as that final card previously. But I'll have a look at SilverName's deck to see what's up with him. He does not have Acidic Swamp Ooze in his deck, which gives Jarla a little bit more freedom to kind of execute that 1-2 punch if possible.
Yeah, and it looks like so far both players are just saying, well, whatever you can do, I can do exactly the same way. As they're getting on those invokes. And now, I do feel like the second one of the players can't do a reasonable job of removing the board, they fall significantly behind. But a lot of it does come down to just the Galakron procs, I feel. If you can see SilverName now as Shield of Galakron, has the Devoted Maniac, has the other Dragon Blight, means that he has got his Galakron effectively finished.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a pretty big deal. But Jarla does actually have Galakron in hand. Oof. Pretty even so far.
I think crucially, Jarla actually has his Veiled Worshipper in hand as well, which is potentially the big difference maker between the two hands right now, because he can just pick up those power cards much more effectively.
Activate Zephyrus earlier as well, which can be a bit of a break point in such an even mirror match, of course.
Yep.
I will act as your scale.
It's almost like looking in a mirror, this matchup, isn't it? Like, quite literally. It seems like both players are just pretty much playing out the same game here.
Yeah, and this is like kind of one. So like when you play Warlock against other decks that are more aggressive than you or more controlling than you, like you do adjust your game plan a little bit in order to counteract what they're doing. When you're playing against the identical deck, like it's really hard to do anything except just play your invoke cards one by one, because it's just like it's almost like both players just handshake and agree, like, all right, we'll just let each other play all our invoke cards and then we'll start playing the game of Hearthstone, you know?
Yeah, and one of the awkward issues with this matchup is Plague of Flames becomes very weird to use because it's quite common for both players to just have imps. So then it's like, are you using your imps to partially Plague of Flames your opponent's imps? You know, like it becomes really awkward because there's almost like just minions that are just splashed all the time because of the way the invoke works for the Warlock Galakron. So it's really hard to make the plagues actually really get a good job done outside of exactly the Galakron turn from your opponent.
So SilverName is now fully invoked. That was his fourth of the game. It does not yet have the Galakron to follow that art, but you will see Jarla's play here, I imagine, heavily influenced by the fear of what Galakron on curve means from SilverName's side of this game. But honestly, yep, I don't really think there's a great deal that he could have done there, except again, just drop another invoke card and get on with it.
Yep, there is always that chance the opponent just doesn't have it, and especially when I feel like when you have it in hand, you play like you're going to play it first anyway, because you know you can play it whenever you want once you've got those invokes, right?
I think that's reasonable. Yeah,
I think like you go, well, I've got it. I don't know if he has, and I don't know if he hasn't, but I know I've got it, so I'm just going to push and just play like, semi-aggressive. And I think that's a good way to approach it in general in the matchup.
Okay.
But the use is there as well for Jarla, as you mentioned earlier. So the second swing from SilverName just more than likely isn't going to happen unless there's like a heck of a turn for Jarla that means he can't use up uses up too much of his mana.
Yeah, it's difficult because a lot of the time, if you're playing against a random ladder opponent, you don't know their deck list, or you know for sure that your opponent's not playing Ooze, you might even hold your first swing of the weapon from Galakron so that you can get both of them in as like post Alexstrasza damage if that's your game plan. But yeah, if your opponent's playing Ooze, obviously that's an absolute disaster if you choose to be that greedy with it.
Oh, did SilverName leave this a little bit too late, or is this just a spectator thing for us? Oh, I guess he
looks fine.
Yeah,
on my screen.
yeah. I more meant to analyze his draw from Worshipper, but he had no mana anyway.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
So I guess that's what this turn's for him, right? You can do that on Jarla's turn. So double Devoted Maniac can come down here just to cleanly deal with this Worshipper and leave 4 Imps on the board. And as I mentioned earlier, the Imps, although maybe a bit innocuous, are really pain in the butt in this matchup. Because when your opponent just has a board of Imps, what do? Do you really want to Dark Skies this? No.
Right.
But can you leave it up? No, because of Plague of Flames.
Like exactly, if you don't,
it's horrible.
They're not only like instant Plague of Flames activators for your opponent, but they also get in the way of you trying to clear with Plague of Flames because there's a bunch of little 1/1 targets on the board.
They're such a
really,
pain.
really irritating.
And it's why, although it might have looked a little bit silly, and SilverName was doing it for hand size, but I think Jarla did it earlier as well. But just like Sacrificial Pacting just an enemy imp looks silly because it's like, yeah, but the Galakron can summon massive demons. Like, that's way better to Sacrificial Pact. It's like, right, but you need hand size, and also, sometimes these imps are more annoying than the massive demons, especially from the point of game they actually hit.
Also, if your opponent plays Galakron and your plan is to kill one of them with a Sacrificial Pact, that's not a good turn. Like, you need to blow up the whole board that turn. So Sac Pact kind of just does nothing there anyway.
I'm still excited to see my first quad dormant demon Galakron. That's something I want to see.
Okay.
Just because, like, what does your opponent do? You go, oh. It's like an ultimate delayed Galakron attack. Rain of Fire was a good pickup, though. That'll do.
Yeah, still no Gala, no Kronks for SilverName, though, which you want on the back foot, it looks like, for the next few turns. Because Jarla is about to hit him with juice.
But
he's scared of Plague of Flames, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, I will say, look at the difference of Galakrons. If Jarla had some of those imps left, he could have Plague of Flames first, and then did a fresh Galakron. Look at that. That's a good one. I would put that in my good Galakron list, sort of, because one, that's just a 12/12, but also the Inquisitor summons a 9/1.
Yeah, it's a 12/12 that can't go face, unfortunately, which is a bit of a drawback, but it is still a 12/12, yes?
It's going to eat anything that SilverName plays, though, which is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
For almost the rest of the game.
I think Disguised Wanderer in a lot of matchups is the absolute boy off of Warlock Galakron because it just messes with AoE so hard. And as we know, the great prophet of our time once said, everybody gangster until they get hit in the face with a 9/1.
I've still never seen it happen yet, though, so I guess everyone is still gangster.
Yeah.
That I know, anyway. So as you can see there, Zephyrus and Alexstrasza in SilverName's hand not active. I bet he wishes he could trade one of those in for a Galakron right now.
Oh, in a heartbeat, yes.
The 9/1 is a demon, correct? It is, right?
That comes out? Yeah, I think so. I've never actually
yeah,
looked into that before,
I'm
but yeah, I would assume
almost
so.
certain. So there is...
Because like flavor-wise, all this guy's doing is taking off his disguise when his death rattle comes off, right? So he can't just not be a demon anymore. That doesn't make any sense.
It's just a mask, Sol. Just a fancy dress he's gone to. So he can actually just trade, and then like you go for Sacrificial Pact to get to that guy, and then just kill it off with an imp. So the fear isn't there totally. It looks like it's going to go for the Netherwing instead. The draw was pretty good there, honestly. Clears up a lot of these threats, and then can just clear off the 9/1 no problemo.
Yep.
Why do you think
Just debating how much he even respects this thing at all, since it can't hit him in the face. That tells you everything you need to know about Hearthstone right there.
Why do you think he didn't just Nether Breath the 9/1 or trade an imp? He could have traded a different way and put an imp into it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I do think that turn was bad. It's just he got very confused over... There was multiple things, like which demon is he going to end up sack-pacting? How many minions does he want to retain? you know, is he going to go digging for Plague of Flames instead as a clear? Then he found the Netherwing like halfway through the turn, which diverted him.
I'll definitely say it was sloppy,
nonsense.
wasn't it?
It was sloppy for sure, yeah.
Because he could have come out in a much better spot there. This 12-4 would have had to have gone into the taunt if he just played it properly. But there's Zephyrus and Alex is active, and there's a Plague of Flames as well.
Yep.
So all is not lost yet. But that was definitely... SilverName definitely put himself in an awkward spot now.
He did.
And Jarla...
But he's facing down 5 more from the weapon, from the claw. He has Kronks in hand. Like, this is scary times for SilverName for sure.
How good...
This is just what you want to be doing with this deck.
Get him.
Jarla's just curved it.
How on point would you say your Zephyrus knowledge is, Sottle?
Like a 7 out of 10, maybe.
So, if would Zephyrus, do you think, offer silence for the demon if it created lethal? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It should do, yeah.
No, I know it should do, Sol, but Zephyrus doesn't always do what you think it should do.
Yeah, it offers silence on like freeze, for example. But,
yeah, I just wondered if like there's a weird thing where, well, the minion normally can attack face, but it's just got an effect laid on top of it with a freeze. But yeah,
I mean, I've never done it with.
It probably works though, right?
With specifically Supreme Abyssal, but you know, I have faith in chat that it works. Okay, I'm sticking my neck out for the boys.
Albatross actually, as we can see, pretty effective at this point to disrupt SilverName's hand, considering his 2 big hitters are Alexstrasza and Zephyrus.
What if?
Would you ever force kill this Albatross?
Just the fact this 12-4 can't go face is just like, it's such a bad card right now. Like, he doesn't want to kill any of these minions. I mean, he does, but he really wants to hit him in the face for 12, and it's just illegal.
Should run silence then, shouldn't he? Where's the Iron Beak Owl when you need it?
I guess so, yeah.
I'm just wondering whether he wants to force kill this Albatross. Easy for us to say because we can see SilverName's hand, but SilverName's getting to the bottom of his deck, and Jarla has to feel in control at this point. So why not be more in control?
I don't think he will.
Okay.
I think it's like with 8 cards left, it's reasonable to think that A, Alexstrasza, Dragon Queen, or Zephyrus are in those cards, or B, that there is still a 2 of remaining in 8 cards, which is still, you know, reasonably likely as well. So it would be tremendous foresight and sort of, you know, caster vision level insight as to what SilverName's hand was to know that exactly this turn that bird has to die for you to do good things with it.
And honestly, it's still threatening a reasonable sum of damage, isn't it? As just a 4/3. I think that's actually just the power of the card. I agree. Obviously, its effect is very unique and disruptive. But if it was a 1/3, it would be not quite the threat, would it? You know, whereas the fact that it deals 4 is something to be considered in itself. It's not like your opponent can just leave it up and let it sit there.
Right.
Oh, I didn't even see. What was that? Varanus?
Varanus and Aeon Reaver?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Aeon Reaver, the 12/2. Take 12.
All right. Any fancy schmancy Zephyrus silence lethals are out the window now, Raven.
Boo.
SilverName just going to say nothing this turn. Okay. I respect it.
He didn't have much to do because, again, age-old issue. If he plays anything, he leaves something up, which means Plague just kills it from Imps. So, yet again, the Imps are just an absolute nightmare in the mirror. They're so frustrating to deal with.
Yep. It does get to a point where, like, one big minion is pretty good against Warlock because their removal doesn't line up super well against that a lot of the time.
Especially once you see the Artificer and Nether Breath kind of go away, right? Once you've seen them used up, which is a fairly new concept in the deck anyway, there really isn't much to do apart from just having to chuck out a Plague. One thing I will say is Jarla's hand is full enough to be able to just go, oh, I'm just going to throw this plague away. It's not good, but it does the job. You know, 1 for 1, fine, and then refill. Because honestly, what you could do now is go in, plague, and then just play Krunks to summon an 8/8. Like, that's a reasonably good turn.
I was spending most of that turn thinking about Kronks to buff and like the implications of that, and just pushing damage. But the problem is, like, if you make the big board and buff it with Kronks and push face, you also really want to turn off the Zephyrus that turn, right? Like, that's the opposite of what I was talking about the turn before, because you're actually giving your opponent a reason why they have to Zephyrus. So then you'd like to have the Albatross die. You can't really do both of those things. They're not compatible, right? Like, kill the Albatross and make the big board and push face.
Yeah, you're setting yourself up for a disaster, aren't you, as opposed to the other way around?
Yeah.
I think I did like the Kronk turn, though. Maybe he is saving it for burst. But I feel like a 6/6 and an 8/8, especially when SilverName has not activated his Galakron yet, so he can't just hero power to summon 2 imps for his plague. I feel like it was a reasonable enough threat.
This one is coming down to razor-fine margins, though. SilverName has had to have been on the defensive because of his lack of Galakron right now, but he did have the, was it heal for 16 in the end with the double Moarg Artificer and the Nether Breath? Which has pulled him out of any immediate danger of the 1-2 punch burst lethal from Jarla, so now they're kind of back set into this position where they're just grinding each other out. Wow. Was not quite expecting Alex Strasser that time.
Alrighty then.
Giddy up, I guess.
And now, 1 mana, go away. It's so insane.
Does look that way, yeah.
Yeah, a quick scan of Jarla's hand, and although that was the plague was the first thing my mind went to, I don't see it going anywhere else, at least to start off with. We can discuss after that, but you know, deal 2 to face and then 1 mana tell these big boys to go away is a pretty good turn as far as I'm concerned, Sottle.
Based on the direction of those attacks, it seems like Jarla complies with your instructions. So now SilverName's pulled the trigger on the Alexstrasza. Now Jarla's even in the mindset of, well, do I need this Kronks for just damage and heal, right? Just to swing the health totals back in my favor. It's kind of weird to play a game based on health totals. Like, it's very amateurish Hearthstone, I guess.
I've not done that for years.
Health totals first and foremost. But that is really like the Warlock mirror. You're so burst heavy, and you're so, you know,
I don't know.
to be burst down by your opponent.
I feel like if he makes an 8/8 now, that's 4 minions that SilverName's going to struggle to deal with. But yeah, he did go for the damage. He went for the health total as a priority. So you win this round, Sottle. But for me, I just see 4 minions, and I'm not sure how he thinks SilverName deals with them. Especially,
he has Zephyrus that might be active again. He still has 2 Plague of Flames that he hasn't played. He has a Dragonblight Cultist that he hasn't played. It's a lot of stuff.
It is. I just think like the Plague, getting 4 minions and the Plague off, I feel is relatively difficult from scratch. Without Galakron, obviously. I don't know. And if he like Zephyrus Nether, is that so bad? Because that's his whole turn, and then you just go again?
No, that's not bad. I wouldn't quite put it in the bad category for sure. But
yeah, maybe I'm just down the line of I'd rather have an 8/8 than more health. But maybe I'm wrong. It has been known to happen now and again. Let's Plagued into Veiled Worshipper, which does put SilverName a little bit behind when it comes to fatigue now. He's just the 1 card ahead, which means that he's going to start taking that damage a little bit quicker, but he does finally draw his Galakron. And
yeah,
the problem is the Galakrond outside the weapon, and obviously we can see the ooze, but it feels like a bit of a moot point now, because unless the demons are like weirdly like dormant, or there's 1 or 2 dormant demons, it should be an easy clear for Jarla, and then the game just continues, right? I guess the 5 armor is the big difference.
5 armor is a big difference, and like I said, there's a roughly 50-50 chance of there being a dormant demon off a 4 summon. So yeah, that can't be Plague of Flames. That is a chance at something that could be imprisoned anti-end, that which then swings 10 more damage even in this calculation. Finally, SilverName finds his first Albatross, both buried in the bottom 4. So now his Zephyrus is active as well. Now suddenly SilverName is starting to piece together a lot of damage himself on this backswing.
Oh, Death Rattle,
Second one's dormant.
really good.
You can always tell because there's a pause in the spawn before the dormant one appears. So the fact that it went 1 then pause, you knew the second one was going to be dormant.
Now, being able to summon that lifesteal, the Dreadlord, is really huge, actually. Just one being a big Death Rattle minion, that's actually one of my favorite minions to even come off Galakrond, because it just does everything you want it to do, but you don't run that card in your deck. It still baffles me how it doesn't make a cut.
Yeah, apart from the Inquisitor, I'd say this is the other like Giganuts demon in a lot of matchups. Jarla having now drawn both Nether Breaths. That was the card that I believe was preventing Jarla from having Dragon Queen and Zephyrus, etc. active up until this point.
Could go for a relatively clean Craze, Netherwing, Nether Breath, and then Sack Pack on the demon that's summoned. I didn't actually even count Dark Skies, so that's my bad, but I guess that probably does it a little bit better. I was just thinking the Netherwing gets a minion on board, whereas this looks like it doesn't really. Okay, it gets small minions on board.
Yep. So now SilverName very low on threats. He has this Varanus, has his Crazed Netherwing, and he has Zephyrus into question mark. Whereas Jarla still has a Dragon Queen on his side.
So, I'm going to ask you a question.
Go on.
At this point, does SilverName just bite the bullet, go Crazed Netherwing, maybe plays the Albatross and Hero Power, and sets up for a Nether Breath Zephyrus Fireball? And just as a, off the top of my head, like example for just try and just burst him down. It's going to be hard because he knows there's 2 Nether Breaths, don't get me wrong, and the Artificer, but I think SilverName needs to do something, and he's not got a lot of stuff to do something with.
Well, he is so he's ahead on fatigue right now, and I think if he's looking at his opponent's cards remaining, I think he knows burst doesn't work because it's Moarg double Nether Breath that's still remaining. So I think if anything, he should be setting out to play control here.
Okay. It's gonna go for Tyrion. Did see the ooze as well, but Zephyrus is the final card, which means Jarla does have a maybe a bit of a blunt Swiss Army knife option from Zephyrus. Sometimes doesn't really do what you want it to do, but probably has a way to deal with this Tyrion.
Yeah, he can certainly get through the Tyrion, but he can get through the Tyrion without using the Zephyrus. I guess there's a debate as to whether the Zephyrus is better used to destroy the weapon again, so that there's not that 15 damage being represented.
Yeah, that's more what I was meaning with like the Plague and then Zephyrus to deal with the totality of the Tyrion, which is the Ashbringer as well.
Because I think recently, like, forcing Zephyrus to give you Hex is actually harder than perhaps it should be in a lot of situations.
Yeah, I agree.
So it might just be safer in spots like this to just say, you know what, I'll just get you to destroy the weapon.
I'm interested to see what it offers him here.
Black Knight and Natalie for sure. Yeah, okay, Faceless is the one I didn't imagine. But that's the one he's going to end up taking.
Yeah, okay. Whatever you can do, I can also do. The story of the mirror match. get the swing in, obviously, just in case, or, well, very likely it's Tyrion dies. The demon is going to go off now, which is going to clear the board and the shield, which does make me consider this faceless a little bit more as a question mark.
Yeah, I agree. I think that might have just been, you know, Jarla clearly considers 300 things per turn, right? And I think maybe he was still only on like number 192 when the rope ended.
Because he could have definitely,
faceless ended up being.
could definitely done a little bit more and got rid of this weapon. Oh, there's still Kronk for SilverName. I forgot.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
that changes a few things, Sol. I actually completely forgot that he hadn't played it yet. Wow.
Yeah.
Are we looking at 5 to the noggin? Yep.
Suddenly, SilverName looking firmly in the driver's seat.
And the problem now is whenever you have to play a Dragon Queen Alexstrasza to survive, you are rolling one heck of a dice because you need very specific outcomes, right? For it to, and the second you fail, you just lose almost all the time. So, ooh, tough.
Yeah, and so Jarla can gain 8 with his Nether Breath combo, but he's ahead on fatigue and he's behind on health, even with that 8 added on top as well, which means he is in a world of trouble here.
Just a side note, our lovely producer Abar has confirmed that Zephyrus does not recognize the silence on the 12-12.
Damn it.
To win the game.
I believed in you, Chad.
Mistake number 1. I'm joking.
Wow.
Oh, I'm going to pay for that one, aren't I?
Yeah, you are.
Hopefully still asleep. Honestly, Sol, I'm not sure where this went wrong for Jarla. It was looking so good for so long.
I think, honestly, it was the heal for 16. Like, the double Moarg Nether Breath was just so... Like, I think Jarla was in a position where he was, like, accounting maybe for 1. Like, heal for 8, fine, I'll deal with that, I'll keep on trucking. But the fact it was 16 just shut down so many win conditions from Jarla's side. I'm sure there are other mistakes. I mean, maybe mistakes is a strong word. There are other decisions that Jarla made that have led him into this position that perhaps could have been made better. But I think from SilverName's side, that's the one thing that he did that created Jarla a huge, huge problem that he hasn't been able to solve.
And now he could go just Albatross into Plague, into Crazed Netherwing, Varanus, why not? Like, it depends how deep he wants to go here, but I kind of like SilverName just pushing Jarla on the back foot.
Right? I think you do it the other way around. You go Albatross, Plague on this, and then you save the Varanus combo? Or is that what you said?
Yeah, so I was meaning Albatross, Plague, and then just play the dragons to, like, get in with dragons.
Oh, no. I don't think you do that. You know the 2 cards your opponent has left, right? And one of them is Plague of Flames. So I think you're just setting out for fatigue, and you have Varanus and Rain as a full clear of, like, anything that your opponent can do in your hand. I think you just hold on to them.
I guess. I didn't really stare too much at the Orc. I guess so. Again, I'm too aggressive. I would have just played everything and been like, can you summon that many minions to Plague?
You know exactly how many minions he can summon, right?
Yes, and I just mean, like, if he uses Alexstrasza to Plague with, then is that just okay? Because you're ahead on fatigue and have the Ashbringer?
Sure.
Because he would have arguably pushed an extra 3 as well with the Netherwing, so I think you just die anyway. But
the question is, against Alexstrasza and 2 cards that do nothing, we're debating. It doesn't matter. Our debate doesn't matter, right? You always win. So the question is, like, what cards can come out of Alexstrasza here that you can play around, and which of those 2 lines, like, opens up more outs against those cards?
Aeon Reaver, not going to do too much.
And honestly, often in these situations, it's very, very hard to account for everything. So a lot of times players will just think of something that could go wrong and then play around that one specifically. Yeah.
We must stop this corruption.
Well, Jarl is not aware of this Varanus, but he should know that there is a Alexstrasza dragon somewhere. But as we can see, the Rain of Fire is what makes this. Without the Rain of Fire, it'd be a little bit more troublesome. But then again, he can't clear the board, so it doesn't matter.
Jarla's next fatigue is for 3, I believe. So SilverName needs to connect face for 6 this
Yeah,
turn.
easy peasy.
Which seems fairly easily done.
Wait, is SilverName overthinking this?
Well, as long as he kills him this turn, it doesn't matter how over or under he thinks it.
But
There you go.
is he just
done? Done. It's
okay?
fine,
This
he did it.
this
Don't worry
seemed
about
like
it.
a very long-winded
Just
way
chill
to
out.
do this, but
Just chill out,
SilverName
he's
gets.
dead.
I'm chill, Sol. Calm down. You chill out. But SilverName did get there. It seemed like a very. I thought there was something funky going to go on the end of that turn, but he did get there and takes the 3-1 over Jarla in honestly a fairly long best of 5 there. So props to SilverName, who may not be as used to playing the more meticulous slow games that Jarla is used to, because it seemed very much there that Jarla was setting the pace.
I just want to point out, I'm pretty sure that's the only way he could have done it, because he needed the Netherwing damage for lethal. So he has to play the Netherwing first, because he needs the dragon in hand to activate the Netherwing.
No, he could just play the Varanus, trade 1 into the taunt, and then 2 damage from the 2/1/1s, plus the swing of the weapon.
Okay,
Is 7.
yeah, sure, that also works.
That's where I went to, and I was just like, well, that's just 1 card played. And that's why when he started playing every card, I was like, oh, does he need to do this?
But genuinely,
But it's fine.
that's the same way I saw. Like that
Oh,
was
really?
that was the first way I saw to do lethal. So that might just be the same for SilverName, or it
sure,
could have
sure,
been
sure.
he could have been trolling. I don't know.
But yeah, I was just like, just Varanus and trade and go. Easy peasy. But yes,
Yeah.
congratulations to SilverName there, edging, and that it does move him to the upper bracket of the group, which is pretty good. Again, you know, there are, I would say SilverName kind of similar to the Tice situation, where a lot of people might, oh, he's a streamer, you know, oh, he doesn't play, you know, doesn't take the game seriously. But again, he's fought his way through Swiss. He's now won his first match in groups against a very difficult opponent, and he's doing it with his own style, his kind of own old schooly kind of druid. His spell mage as well got the win. He played Warlock pretty well, even though it looks pretty rough for him against Jarla then, and he got the job done. So I'm impressed with my first time casting SilverName in actual years, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, there was a clue in what you just said, right? Where you said when people are dismissing him as a streamer, it's like, well, you know, all he does is stream. Well, yeah, if all he does is stream, that means
It's a
all
lot
he
of
does is play
Hearthstone.
Hearthstone. All he does is play Hearthstone. And there is a world of difference, don't get me wrong, between jamming ladder all day and playing competitive Hearthstone. You know, we've seen more and more players start to point that out and say, you know, as they get into the Grandmasters program, they're starting to realize like how big a difference that is.
Mhm.
And I think, for example, Tice was once arguably the best player in the world. He's still a great player, but I don't think he's arguably the best player in the world anymore. And in order to become that again, he would have to focus full-time on competitive Hearthstone. But if you are a great player, you can maintain a level of greatness just by playing a lot of Hearthstone every day, which is what these streamers are doing. So it's no great surprise that they end up still being competitive.
Yeah, even if you are just, it's not the perfect way to go, but even if, you know, worst case, you're jamming ladder whilst half doing something else, if you're that good, that just keeps you sharp, right? It might not improve you tons, but it just keeps you sharp and keeps you on your toes. You're used to seeing certain patterns, certain situations pop up and everything like that. So it seems pretty reasonable to me. But that was just match number 2 for the day so far. We've got plenty more Hearthstone coming up, and I do believe we are going to go to a short break while we set up match number 3. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with some more Grandmasters.